How has the fallout of the NFL draft impacted fantasy football ADP? We break down the latest trends plus our favorite risers and fallers. Buckle up, subscribe if you're new. It's the IBT podcast coming right at you.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the funk, check your stat line, see who's up, that over under hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweep, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. And so I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way. And it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you. What they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap on the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it got me fading between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. And yes, we are a third of the way through this glorious calendar year and just 86 days until preseason football kicks off in Canton, Ohio. I will be there just a few weeks later, slinging some beers, slinging some live drafts. My name is Seth Woolcock, and I'm grateful to be here with you every Tuesday evening on the IBT podcast, your program for both some refreshing and feel-good takes on fantasy football and the NFL gambling world. I'm joined by quite the cast of characters tonight. He's big business, light ranch and son of a bitch, a DFS degen, and a guillotine league savant, Eric Romoff. Eric, how we doing, brother?
And we live in well tonight. We just got news that the NFL schedule is going to be released in like a week, so we can finally jump in there and look at how all of those matchups are going to play out when we know each team and who they will face off against. So it's like a little sneak preview to OTA and minicap season.
Yes, absolutely. I am looking forward to it 100%. We're going to do our season win total bets very quickly after those season schedules drop. Also, joining us tonight is the heel of this particular program, first in line to the JJ McCarthy experience, NFL futurist, fantasy pundit, Nicholas Hoover, a.k.a. Hoov. Hoov, my boy, how we doing, brother?
What is up, beautiful people? How we doing? It's your boy, HOOV. Your boy Hoov, and if you don't know, now you know, because they call me Hoov because like a vacuum, my takes suck. How you doing? All right, so I'll be here all week. All right, so let's get started. Let's have a good show. The vibes are high. The tornado might rip my roof off, but that's okay. We'll take a little break and then we'll be back. So it's a twister. It's him. Oh, my leg.
We got Hoov on Stormwatch. Hoov, give me the number 1 through 10. What do you think the chances are we see a little NATO action out there your way?
On a scale from 1 to 10, it's definitely on that scale.
Okay, we're on the scale. And boys, inclement weather is here because fucking summer is here. Like I was pumped up early today. I did a nice little midday run. Tarp was fucking off. Tarp was off. It was a warm son of a gun today. And I'm starting to put my calendar together for the summer. And starting in June, we are absolutely jam-packed here at IBT Media. We're jam-packed just in general this summer. Allergies back as well. So sorry if I don't sound, my pipes aren't as good as usual. Trying to pull through this one for you guys. But tonight on the program, we're going to talk ADP trends, look at our favorite risers and fallers in the rankings. Then we'll round out some good news, some feel-good happenings around the sports and entertainment world. Also joining us tonight, the kid whose nightly dinner has become Iron City heavy at the ballpark and a Permani Brothers sandwich. He's a Pirate season ticket holder, a Chase Claypool mark. He's producer Kyle Scott. Jim Scott, how we doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, but you know I'm not eating that Permani sandwich, brother. You know that, all right? I'm eating the Renegade dog down at the ballpark. A foot-long hot dog,
My
pulled
guy.
pork, or no, I'm sorry, beef brisket and
Ooh.
pierogies. That
Okay.
thing give you a spare tire, I'll tell you that much. Add that with some Iron City heavies, we're gaining some pounds this summer.
You're gonna be the next Chase Claypool now, Kyle. After you're gonna burn out pretty quickly if you keep eating those, Jim.
I'm gonna be the next Eddie Lacy at this rate.
Also want to shout out the IBT family for rocking with us. We're so fucking close to 1,000 subscribers. We could not do it without everyone who joins us weekly in the chat. They engage with us. They're liking, they're subscribing, they're ringing that damn bell. DNO tickets are popping off right now. Make sure you guys are still getting them. We're just over halfway sold out. But they're going quickly. We're doing a giveaway for a Taysom Hill signed jersey for the first 100 tickets sold. So make sure you guys get in on that. And then we're also giving one for the channel for 1,000 subscribers as well. So just type in the chat right now. Let us know you're subbed and put NFL if you want to enter the NFL giveaways. And we also have some NASCAR giveaways too that we're still doing these next couple weeks. We gave one out last week. We have some more autographed die casts to give out the next 2 weeks. So let us know in the chat. Just spam subbed and put dash NFL and NASCAR, just NASCAR, like whatever you guys want to get in on the giveaways. We want to make sure we're hooking you up. We appreciate everyone. Hoov, you are not eligible to win though, my friend. I am sorry.
That's okay. I mean, I'm a winner at heart. That's all that matters. I'm a winner in my own mind. So, but you know what? We could spread the love. We could spread the joy.
Yes.
To people, 1,000 people here. I'll put my pride aside this one time.
This one time. Very honorable of you, brother. I appreciate it. And Eric, these are your jerseys we're giving away, so you're obviously not eligible either. Sorry about that.
No, we'll just say someone won, and I'll keep them. Right. The other jersey in question, a signed San Francisco Frank Gore jersey.
Yes. I'm pumped up about that one, man. Frank Gore is a fucking legend. I just got Frank Gore Jr. on a couple dynasty squads. Let's go.
Yo,
yeah.
Keeping it in the family.
Am I eligible for that one? Let's talk business.
Yeah.
Let's talk business.
We're going to get a couple more for the expo. We're going to have some more draft night out.
Set up those burners, get a few more accounts, get a few more subs. We can work something out.
Hey, if I'm the heel of this show, we're going all in. All right. I'm showing up next week with that Frank Gore jersey on, let me tell you.
This is what you can do. We'll get a Frank Gore Jr. jersey to give away at draft night out. You can get in on that one, but you have to show up to draft night out disguised looking like someone else from the industry who might be signed up already. So if you can get involved that way, I think that's going to be the task at hand.
I have to dress up like someone else in the industry to win it.
Yep. And I have to believe you're that person.
Oh man, I think I might pull out a great Scott Fish costume. Not gonna lie.
Oh, dude, bick your head. That would be commitment.
Oh man, I can do it. Scott. All I have to do is just be like the nicest guy for a day, and everyone will believe I'm Scott Fish.
You might need to get some fucking stilts too. Scott Fish. First time I ever saw this man 2 or 3 years ago at the expo. Looks like he should be in the fucking NBA. Honestly, like dude does not look like he should be a fantasy analyst and pioneer at that.
The Timberwolves don't need him, that's for sure.
the number one lesson of everyone's first experience at the expo is nobody is as tall as you thought they were.
Yes, me and Sam were just talking about this last weekend.
Or tiny.
Yes.
I was just hanging out with a few guys from the industry this last weekend in my hometown, and me and Sam Wallace, we were talking about that because I walked in the bar and I was like, "Are you Sam?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Damn, you're not taller than I am." Like, I like going to the expo because everyone's like under 5'10", so I feel like a giant walking around. So I feel good, But when I walk in and someone sizing me up, I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, this is adjustment."
Yep, agreed. Looks like we got Rachel in the chat hanging out with us. What's up, Rachel? We appreciate you as always. We got Dee saying hello, handsomes, always making us feel good, even when I'm not feeling great, Dee. So I appreciate that little extra boost of confidence there. And we got Albert hanging out with us. Good evening, IBT. Good evening, Albert. Make sure you guys let us know. I know all 3 of you guys are subscribed, but let us know if you want involved with your NFL or our NASCAR giveaways. We want to make sure you guys are involved and getting acquainted potentially with some new jerseys here this summer. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead. Let's break down some ADP risers and fallers that we're vibing with, that we're not vibing with here. In the first segment of the night, let's crack open a cold one with Headlien Hijinx. All right, guys. So we are going to be looking at some Underdog Fantasy trends in the most recent ADP, and we're going to talk about some positions, and then we'll get more into some specific players and who we're potentially targeting at their new price tag here. And I want to start at the quarterback position, guys, because I thought the quarterback position was extremely interesting, how things have kind of shaken out. Eric, there was not that long ago that I was advocating for, hey, maybe we should take a stab at Josh Allen in the late second round. You advised me against to that. Josh Allen still the quarterback one, but all the way down at 32.4 ADP. He's dropped quite a bit. Still probably too rich for your blood, I'd imagine.
You know, in a vacuum, he's a little too rich for my blood. But as I've been firing at Best Ball Mania, largely over the course of my 17-hour tattoo sit, I actually found myself with a lot more Josh Allen than I would have anticipated. I like that his ADP is moving the direction that it is, but more so than anything else, you've got pretty good control over your ability to stack with all of his pass catchers, right? A lot of time these top guys, you know, you have to first get their primary target before you go out and acquire them and hope they fall down the board. With Josh Allen, he can be the first bill that you pick up and you can acquire fairly readily. Kincaid, you can go into the rookie market. You can obviously get guys like Shakir super late. Cook obviously catches passes out of the backfield. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of taking these onesie positions quite this early. But with the ADP moving the way it is, and just how much agency it gives you over your ability to go out and stack bills, I kind of like targeting draft Josh Allen right now.
I like it. I like to hear it. Eric, what's the tat? What's the new tat, man?
Oh, I went and got basically my whole thigh covered with my dog Obi in a Jedi's cloak and illuminated by a lightsaber. Little May the 4th be with you special.
What color is lightsaber?
It's blue. He's a Jedi.
Okay.
None of that red. Come on.
Hey, there's green lightsabers. There's yellow. I'm a purple lightsaber guy. Honestly, I think if I was a Jedi, I think I'd have a purple lightsaber who have a little Mace Windu action.
That's some Samuel Jackson type shit right there, man. I don't know the colors. I'm not like a big Star Wars guy, but I respect fans that do, because I'm a big Marvel fan. Obviously, you guys can see that. So I respect it. I don't know the colors though.
I thought those things went hand in hand. I thought if you're a Marvel fan now, you kind of were a Star Wars fan, but apparently not. Hoov, that's gonna be your homework. Go watch the 9 Star Wars movies and the 5 or 6 series, Eric. I think that's gonna be the homework.
That's a lot of homework. Yeah,
your homework is to drink some orange juice. That's what your homework is. With pulp.
Yes. Oh, I fucking hate pulp. All right, moving forward
for you.
In the quarterback trends, Patrick Mahomes retakes CJ Stroud for the quarterback 44 overall. Hoov, I like Patrick Mahomes a lot. I've been taking him a lot in the late 4th round and early 5th round, ahead of getting a little bit of bump after the NFL draft. Obviously, a little bit of news of the day is we obviously have Rashee Rice potentially in another incident. But still, do you like Patrick Mahomes at his ADP? Because other than stacking him with Kelsey, who's also going in the 4th round now, you can get his other wide receivers potentially for a stack. So do you like targeting Mahomes, or is he too rich for you?
There's no shame in getting Patrick Mahomes as your QB4 in the rankings. Like, that's just a great value in itself. But looking at everything else, like right now, the Rashee Rice news that just broke today, you know, I really like Rashee Rice. We figured he was going to have some kind of suspension with the whole speeding incident, and the speed with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. I think that those guys are going to be awesome throughout the season. But once it starts getting cold, like, how is that speed going to translate? And so, like, someone like Rashee Rice with that experience, like him playing Patrick Mahomes style football. I really liked his value coming back from that suspension going into the playoffs for most people. Now, with this news breaking today on Rice, we don't know if he's even going to be there, at all throughout the year. So, or even going forward, we don't know how this is all going to shake out. So, Patrick Mahomes, like, what could he produce without Rice, with developing Xavier Worthy while trying to establish this Hollywood Brown connection, and then obviously having guys like Sky Moore in building and whatnot. So looking at everyone else after him, I'm not going to knock anyone for picking Patrick Mahomes as QB4, but I think that if you're going to wait, there's so many guys right here that I would rather take a stab on than do Mahomes.
I'm operating under the assumption that we will see Rashee Rice this season. I'm 100% hoping that he will get on the field at some point. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. Eric, your thoughts? Like, I always play the optimist card when I think I'm drafting, and like, especially with the suspensions. And, we know it took, a year and a half for Alvin Kamara to even get handed anything for what happened at the Pro Bowl. So, like, I'm usually on the more like, hey, fuck it, send it with this type of stuff. How do you feel Mahomes ADP looks with the Rashee Rice and overall Chiefs situation right now?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, right? Like, if you want to go complete other end of the spectrum to the pessimistic side, to the dark side, to keep the Star Wars theme alive, like if you were to remove Rashee Rice from this roster for the entire year, arguably this season's Kansas City wide receiving core is the best one that Patrick Mahomes has had since Tyreek Hill left, right? Even with Rice out of the picture. So, that kind of underscores a macro point that I think as the fourth quarterback off the board, Patrick Mahomes makes a lot of sense. Hoov, the thing that you mentioned that's really key for me is looking at the guys immediately after Patrick Mahomes in terms of ADP. I mean, that's a real no man's land, right? Like, not until we get 4 or 5 guys down into like the Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott range am I really interested. So like, Mahomes is kind of like the last stop of elite QB options, and generally like you want to be at the end of these tier breaks, right? So like I think that's the point to really underscore that you brought up there, Hoov. And specifically with regard to this latest incident, this is actually the one that can be the fly in the ointment, right? You mentioned the Alvin Kamara comp. At least in recent memory, the NFL has been very, very strict in their approach to say, we're going to let the legal process play its course, and then we will take any sort of disciplinary action, right? So in theory, that should move any suspension possibility for Rashee Rice out of the 2024 season. But there's a chance that with this latest incident, it doesn't actually make its way to a criminal case. And if that happens, then we could see a much more accelerated timeline. We don't really have a good comp for how the NFL will react to a second incident while a first incident is pending. So they might be a little bit more heavy-handed. Prior to this breaking news earlier today, Rashee Rice is one of my favorite targets because I think the likelihood of him being suspended is high, but I think the likelihood of him being suspended for the racing incident this year is very, very low. So now it is just chaos once more. And sometimes you have to capitalize that in best ball formats, right?
And last quarterback trend for me that I want to point out here is Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels ADP has just been inflated over the last couple of months. At one point, you could get Williams around QB 16 to QB 18 when we were doing some of our early drafts this offseason. He's moved all the way up to QB 11 here. And Jane Daniels, QB 14. Man, I'm like, it's tough for me on these rookies. I feel like Hoov, like, I like the cut of their jib. Like, I like the cut of the cut of the jib for Caleb Williams. Like, I think he's got a really good situation he's going into, but I still yet feel like quarterback 11. I'm drafting him at a ceiling. Can you talk me off that ledge at all?
I don't hate it. I think I'd still take. I don't know if I'd take Caleb over Brock quite yet, but I understand like why you're hesitant. But you also kind of have to realize like look at what CJ Stroud did last year as a rookie.
But that was the greatest rookie quarterback season of all time. We have to keep that in mind as well. Arguably.
Okay, yes, but compared to what the talent that CJ Stroud's, I'm not going to knock CJ Stroud's talent because he's incredibly talented, and I'm on the train of that. But Caleb Williams, he's at that level +1, and then you also add in the fact like this is basically the receiving core that CJ Stroud has this year, but as Caleb Williams as a rookie, 4,000 yards. I don't think that's an understatement on what Caleb Williams can do his rookie year, and that's not even just because like these expectations are so high for Caleb. Like they're setting him up to do it. I think that like kind of going back to the whole Mahomes thing, like with CJ Stroud being right under him, like there's so much value like right underneath there, and Caleb Williams could produce as much as CJ Stroud does throughout this year. Like this tier between all the way down to Caleb Williams or Brock Purdy, oh man, easily QB1s right here, and I think it's a dime a piece no matter what. So I wouldn't be too scared about Caleb Williams going into his rookie year, especially at value. Each person going down this list at price is probably worth the value at this moment.
Okay, let's move to running backs here before we get into some specific players that we are targeting. Some of the trends that I'm seeing at the running back position right now, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, they've jumped Travis Etienne for the RB9 and the RB10. I think Etienne's a clear value to RB11. I was drafting him before when he was closer to RB8 or 9. I'm in on Etienne at that price tag. Also, I think it was you, Eric, who said a couple months ago, like you thought almost Washington's running backs ADP should be close or flipped even. Austin Eckler, RB33 right now. Brian Robinson Jr., RB34. Eckler slid. I mean, we were drafting him mid-50s, mid-60s a couple months ago. He's all the way down there now. Are you taking a shot at one of those commanders?
Yeah, I mean the easy answer is whichever one falls a little bit further, right? Now that they sit right next to each other a bit further down the board, I would probably err on the side of Austin Eckler, right? Like, I'm projecting this team to be in a lot more passing situations than they are in clear running situations, so that should favor the workload for Eckler, but also from like a front office and coaching dynamic standpoint, like the coaching perspective, he gets to be kind of this, this elder statesman, this mentor to a, fairly young offense in the Commanders. From a front office standpoint, they're going to want to get everything they can out of this contract and unfortunately likely move on from him as soon as next year. So there are a number of different factors to where if they're right next to each other, I would lean towards Eckler, especially now that they're so far down the board, right? Like you're into the triple digits ADP, where you're pretty flatly speculating.
Yeah, absolutely. You think you're flipped, Hoov? You think you're Brian Robinson at that price?
Yeah, I'm Brian Robinson just because we saw last year with Austin Eckler them not having a great offensive line to protect Herbert and allow those weapons to really do what their talent permits in Los Angeles last year. And so with Washington being in a very similar situation with a bad offensive line, I don't know how great Austin Eckler is going to be able to show that explosivity to what he has remaining. Like we already saw that drop last year. I mean, even just being at the Packer game and watching him break for that big run, like Austin Eckler a few years ago would have been fucking gone. There was no way that he should have gotten chased down. So you're just kind of seeing that speed die down with age. And Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler is obviously better than Antonio Gibson in every stretch of imagination. But Brian Robinson, when he was on the field, like even as a rookie coming back from that shooting incident, like as soon as he was back, or even before then, you looked at the offense and went, something looks like it's missing. And it was Brian Robinson. And I think people are going to really realize like Brian Robinson is a lot better player than what his ADP and what his fantasy situation permits, because when he's there, he doesn't like separate or I'm trying to think of the right term for it. He doesn't create those extra yardages, but he's a great player for what his role is.
Sure.
And compared to what Austin Eckler will probably give with a bad offensive line, I think Brian Robinson is your guy. So
Okay. Yeah, I
if
think
Eckler slides, I could be in on it, but right now, back next to each other, like I think Brian Robinson's shown me kind of not as much as like a Rashad White has showed Tampa Bay, but I think Brian Robinson is very close to that.
I think bottom line, whether it's Eckler, whether it's Robinson, either one feels like a value right now in the mid 30s at running back. Also, I want to shout out Gus Edwards. His ADP is continuing to creep up there. I was drafting Gus Edwards back when he was the RB 45, RB 46. His ADP has moved all the way up to 117, so I thought it was an interesting note. And then Tyjae Spears, now a value potentially at RB 38, Eric, 123 overall. He has slid down the board tremendously. Do you like Spears at that price tag?
Yeah, I've been stacking up a fair amount of Tyjae Spears towards the end of the aforementioned BBM drafts over the course of the weekend, right? Like, this was a guy that, depending on when you started your early best ball drafts, was, well into the single digit rounds, and
Certainly.
you're now getting him significantly later, right? I think more than anything, it is a vote of confidence in his talent and kind of a mark of lack of faith in Tony Pollard, right? We saw Tony Pollard try to, step up into that more kind of between the tackles role last year, which is presumably what he'll step into now that he is a Tennessee Titan. And he didn't exactly set the world on fire, right? So I think that we'll see a fairly even split when you kind of talk about the macro of the entire year. So I'll err on the side of the pass catcher and the guy that's looked to be more explosive with the ball in his hands, particularly in this format, right? Like you don't have to slog through those weeks where he's getting 5 carries and 3 passes and accumulates 30 yards, right? Like when he pops off, he will be in your lineup, and I think he'll win you some weeks.
If you're taking Tony Pollard at RB 26 right now, you're a fucking punk. Like honestly, that's some punk shit. Like don't do that. That's a terrible price tag for Tony Pollard.
You're a punk.
Dude, like I would rather have all these running backs behind him, straight up. I like maybe not Javonte Williams, but Jonathon Brooks, Jalen Warren, not Zach Moss, Trey Benson, Nick Chubb. Like I'll take Singletary. I'll take all of them. You're a punk. Wide receiver ADP trends to quickly touch on here. Not too much change here in the wide receiver landscape. However, we do have Marquise Hollywood Brown, who has really risen up right now. Wide receiver 35. Xavier Worthy, wide receiver 34. You're also a fucking punk if you're drafting Hollywood Brown right there. That is some ballsy shit. Like I'm taking my shot on Rice all day at wide receiver 38. We kind of touched on that, Hoov, so we don't have to beat the dead horse, but like just no. Miss me on Marquise. Right there? Miss me on Marquise Brown. I'm not doing that. No way.
Both of them seem like a stretch. That's really high for both of them. Xavier Worthy, I think that's your only guy that you can really take a stab on around this price.
Rice is not high. That's a good price for Rice, isn't it, Eric?
He might not play this year. Over Addison and Brian Thomas Jr.
He's gonna play.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I tend to believe that he was going to play based on any sort of response to the initial incident. Now it's kind of hard to say, but as he slides, right, like it sounds like the secondary incident is a little bit less severe. So maybe, if he does see anything this year, it's a couple of games. But the thing that was kind of frustrating is Underdog really just kind of threw their hands up in the air in terms of what to do with the high-powered trios, right? Like for the longest time, it was Diggs, it was Collins, and it was Tank just back to back to back, and it was Worthy, and it was Rice, and it was Brown back to back to back, right? So like we're kind of seeing those markets start to shift a little bit, and in at least in my approach in particular, right? Like I'm a volume shooter when it comes to best ball. I want to get a ton of different builds and a lot of exposure out there. So in those close, too close to call kind of scenarios, I tend to just go with whatever is the decreasing price tagged asset, right? So right now I find myself with a fair amount of Rashee Rice comparatively to the other two wide receivers in Kansas City.
I'll tell you guys about this. I made a trade this week. I traded Rashee Rice on in my first draft of the year. I traded the 208 and the 308 for Rashee Rice. Alone for like the player that Rashee Rice is seems very low, but the players available I felt good on. Like I grabbed, you guys know I'm big on AD Mitchell, and I grabbed AD Mitchell with that pick. Someone on Twitter they commented and they were like, with Rashee Rice being elite, I don't know how you can go after AD Mitchell with the character issues. I'm like, character issues? You're gonna try to defend Rashee Rice with character issues when it comes to AD Mitchell? Like, I get it. You an anonymous report talking about his character issues versus 2 incidents where character has came into question publicly when it comes to Rashee Rice. So AD Mitchell, like, from what you're going to get, I don't think that Rashee Rice is going to produce in a way compared to like AD Mitchell, who really, when you look at his talent, was a first round asset, but slid a little bit to the second round. So like, I just don't see Rashee Rice with suspension on top of Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce. We're literally forgetting about Travis Kelce. So I just don't think that Rice justifies even being close to Keon Coleman. Like, that's
stop. No, I'm taking Rice all day. I'm not even considering that trade, honestly. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm blinded for my love, but I can't.
I also got Jalen Polk with that second one too.
I'll take Rice. Tight end trends. Here we have only real notables here. We have Dalton Kincaid. He's finally jumped Mark Andrews, which I think is kind of justified. 51 overall right now. Brock Bowers falls all the way down to tight end 10 behind Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson. I'd almost lobby I would take Njoku over Brock Bowers, honestly, at this point as well. Eric, would you have any problem with that if I would take David Njoku over Brock Bowers? You think that's a hot take?
Well, according to ADP, it's a hot take, but I think that is the correct answer, right? Both in terms of, the role we've seen David Njoku carve out for himself in this version of the Browns offense, but more so because in a 1 year, essentially a redraft best ball format, there's no reason to take Brock Bowers this early, right? Like, yes, It was nice that we saw Sam Laporta come in and set the world on fire last year, and to a lesser extent, Dalton Kincaid able to contribute much faster than we've grown accustomed to the tight ends contributing. But the situation that Brock Bowers is walking into is so dramatically different from either of those. Like the fact that he's even above the fold on this page is kind of a joke, right? Like, one of the most tumultuous quarterback situations in all of the NFL. Another very talented, granted with a different skill set tight end that they spent early draft capital on last year, and maybe one of the biggest target hogs at wide receiver in the entire land in Devonta Adams, right? So like, we talk a lot about drafting guys at their ceiling. I don't think a ceiling outcome is even on the range where Brock Bowers finishes close to the top 10 or 12 at the position, right? So he needs to be much lower, more than it is. I think, Njoku needs to be incrementally higher.
Okay.
I have a take about this.
Ooh,
okay? I like the Sam Laporta comp. I'm a believer in it only because of this. Like, Amon-Ra was a target hog, and Sam Laporta still ended up becoming tight end 1. Like, that Brock Bowers, when they made that pick, they only made it because he was the best player still available at that pick. And so when you have talent in building, are you going to waste it like Kyle Pitts, who's 2 up? I don't think so, just because of what you're going to be asked, what he's going to be asked of in Las Vegas. I think he will be the 2 in that offense. Like, White probably will step into a bell cow role. Adams is still going to be your 1, but like, if Amon-Ra could still be a top 5 receiver, for most of the year, why can't Bowers at least be tight end 6?
I think it's I think it's just a different offense, and I think also it's just when you kind of look at the quarterback situation, like Jared Goff can produce two high volume pass catchers. We've just never seen that out of Gardner
Right.
Minshew. Like he can
Michael
produce
Pittman.
one. Michael Pittman Jr. Yeah, that'll be Devontae Adams. Like that's like we saw with DJ Chark back in Jacksonville. Like he can produce one elite pass catcher, but I just don't know if he can get a second one. So I think that's all we're saying here, guys. Let's go ahead though. Let's get to our biggest risers and fallers with our headline hijinks here. Eric, I'll throw it over to you first, man. Who's a player you're either vibing with or not vibing with, and what's your headline for it?
So I'm actually vibing with both of my headlines. I'll start with my first. Take a chance on Tracey. That's Tyrone Tracey, the rookie running back for the New York Football Giants. Actually, his stock is rising a little bit, but he's still like deep into the 190s, right? This is a guy that was like 205, 212, a couple of weeks ago. And really when you're down this deep into the draft, the conversation is there a non-zero chance that this guy sees the majority of carries at some point in the season? If the answer is yes, it's a pretty clear choice to draft this kid. And then you take a look at, where this New York Giants franchise is. There's really nothing holding them to Devin Singletary over the course or beyond this season, I should say. Singletary hasn't exactly been the picture of health, and they're going to need to see what they have in the kid, right? So, I don't think that this is a case that he should be, in the 140s or 120s or anything like that. But at price, a guy that could potentially start earning some more role, some more workload, and has a pretty unique skill set in terms of how this backfield is comprised. This is the exact type of lottery ticket that I love stacking up in this format.
Yeah. 191 overall. I like the call a lot there. I'll go ahead and throw out someone that I'm vibing with right now. And my headline is JSN, just stop neglecting. Listen, the rookie wide receivers, the Xavier Worthies, the Ladd McConkeys, the Keon Coleman's have really pushed JSN down the board right now to where I think he's a tremendous value at wide receiver 45, end of the 7th round range. And we do talk about it a lot, though. But JSN right now, you're drafting him at his floor. I like drafting players at their floor. He was wide receiver 48 last year as a rookie, running just about 56% of the snaps in a Shane Waldron-led offense. Now he gets an upgrade in Ryan Grubb, who orchestrated an offense last season at Washington that was arguably one of the most prolific in the country, had the second most passing yards per game at 343. Tyler Lockett's another year older, boys. I still believe in JSN as well. Won 52.7% of his routes last season. That's 17th among wide receivers. And at worst, I think like at the floor, if you draft him and he's still a wide receiver 4, like that's what you drafted him at. And at best, you could be getting maybe a wide receiver 2, a low end wide receiver 2. So I just think there's a lot to like about JSN, and I'm getting him everywhere I can this year.
I love both those calls, honestly. Like with Tracey, for every for value and where you could get these guys, like for every Pierre Strong Jr. last year, there's always a Damian Pierce. So I really like that call. I really like JSN. Like that's an awesome one. You got anything to add for JSN before I say my value?
No. Oh, Eric, you got some?
Dive in. No, good effort.
Nothing. All right, so for mine, someone that I'm feeling, some probably from a backfield or wide receiver room that most people aren't really looking at. I got You're My Wan'Dale Wall, a little Oasis, because I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. That's how I feel about the Giants right now, because I'm really optimistic about what Malik Neighbors alone can do to this offense, what his presence brings, and how it can add so much ability to everyone else. Like you saw when Jamar Chase was brought into that offense, how things just worked out for Tyler Boyd and everything else. Like some things just work hand in hand, and Malik Neighbors just being a great asset to that offense. I think Jalen Hyatt's going to be your Gabe Davis in a Brian Daboll, like him coming from Buffalo. Like Jalen Hyatt's going to be your cardio king, that he's just going to be running routes so Malik Neighbors can open up things. And Wan'Dale Robinson, being that wide receiver 3, like he's the guy that's shown you over your Sterling Shepards and whatnot in that wide receiver room that he's a dog. He's got value. So I really like Wan'Dale Robinson as my wide receiver 3 in that offense. Value should be adjusted as is. If you could get some Curtis Samuel value out of Wan'Dale Robinson late in your drafts, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and take a stab on Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, I promise you it's worth the shot. Like, everyone can be excited about Theo Johnson, but it's going to take some time. Daniel Jones, his upside, but you also know he's limited in certain aspects because of that offensive line. So take a stab, but with caution. But I promise you, it's a stab that you should be taking because Wan'Dale Robinson, dog.
Wide receiver 81. Like, it's hard to argue with that analysis, Eric, at that price tag.
Yeah, I mean, price adjusted, you have to love the call, but also, the thing that I really appreciate about this take is that we've seen Wan'Dale Robinson pop a few times, right? Like even in the mess of this offense last year, he's got a top 10, a top 13, a top 17 finish, scoring outputs that would put him into your starting lineup in a best ball format. And some of the underlying stats on this kid are insane, right? Number 4, the 4th wide receiver in all of the NFL in terms of true catch rate, 98.4%. His target separation is top 5. His average cushion is top 10. His contested catch rate is number 3, right? So, to your point, Hoov, I think we're not talking about a situation where Robinson's going to be the primary target, but we are talking about a situation where the offense is going to be more effective overall, and he's shown that he can make the absolute most out of whatever targets he is going to get his way, and that's exactly what you're looking for in this format.
I like it. Let me sneak in a bad vibe pick right now before I toss it back to you, Eric. Big girls don't Kyren Williams. I think that's an Alicia Keys song, right? I think that's Alicia Keys, if I'm right. Big girls
that's
don't
Fergie.
cry.
I hope you know. You know.
It's really hard for me to believe that Sean McVay didn't have a vision when he drafted Blake Corum, guys. Like, I could see him running that between the 20s role. He scored 28 touchdowns last year in college. Kyren was 4th in red zone touches, 3rd in total touchdowns with 15. I just have a feeling he's going to be closer to that single digits touchdown mark. And I'd rather just not take him in round 2, Eric. And I'd rather wait for someone like Travis Etienne in the 4th or Isaiah Pacheco in the 5th. Like, Kyren feels a little like he could be the Dave Montgomery in this backfield.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would go that far in that David Montgomery
or the Jahmyr Gibbs, excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, both of those outcomes would be fine for where Kyren Williams is being drafted. But I think the thing that is troublesome is, just how much overlap there is between Kyren's skill set and what Blake Corum is bringing in. So I think, if nothing else, we're talking about a scenario where 3 weeks ago, Kyren Williams had that workload really all to himself. And now, best case scenario, he's slightly on the right side of a 50-50 split, at least when you talk about the whole of the season, right? Sure. So, for that to be the circumstance of a guy that you would have to draft in like the anchor RB territory, like that is an outright avoid. He's one of the biggest fallers post draft. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised to see him slot down another 5, 6, 7 spots in terms of the running back rankings, because in the earliest of best ball drafts, he was a guy that was being considered like at the 1-2 turn as a potential guy that you could really hang your hat on, and that circumstance has changed dramatically, to say the least.
I took him there multiple drafts. Yeah, I took him there. So
Question.
Yeah.
So Charbonnet was viewed, Zach Charbonnet last year at value, kind of the same similar predicament like that Blake Corum's in. He was viewed as like the RB3 of the class last year, behind Robinson and Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Charbonnet, he went into that competition against Walker. Walker showed his ability at the NFL level already, and then you saw what Charbonnet was at, like how he was used in that offense later on, and it was just Kenneth Walker's show most of the year. So I'm not as worried about Blake Corum as other people, because in a draft class that I like Jonathon Brooks because Carolina showed investment in him, and I'm optimistic about Trey Benson for value with James Conner being that offense too. But Blake Corum, like being the being the running back 3 in this draft class, what did he earn that Zach Charbonnet didn't last year? So
Yeah.
I think I'm more in on Kyren Williams and others. I think that that Blake Corum being there, he could be used better than Charbonnet in the sense, like, because Sean McVay is such an offensive mind, he'll have more value. So Kyren could drop more to like where he's appropriate underneath an ETN, maybe outside of that RB10 range where he becomes more value, like more appropriate. So I like Kyren. I guess I wouldn't take him at value right now, but I feel like that will adjust.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's a great point, Hoov. I appreciate the Zach Charbonnet comp to Corum because I think it's a similar situation. Eric, who's a player that you're either vibing with that's been falling or rising up ranks, or that you're saying, hey, not for me right now?
Yeah, the next player I'm vibing with is a recent faller. He is the Dell of the ball, Tank the Texan to target. I mentioned this when we were talking about the Kansas City wide receiver room a little bit earlier. Basically, from the point where Stefon Diggs was acquired, Underdog just kind of threw their hands up and said, well, all three of these guys are going to be back to back to back in rankings. And since that point, not in the least bit because Tank Dell caught a stray bullet at a party. We've seen his ADP completely plummet, right? We're seeing Nico and Diggs basically still neck and neck, whereas Tank Dell is almost 2 rounds later. So, following that same principle of trying to get explosive value at the lowest price tag, like he checks those boxes, but also in terms of Stefon Diggs coming into this offense, he doesn't really pose much of a threat to how the Texans and CJ Stroud use Tank Dell, right? It's going to be Diggs and Nico Collins that are competing for not dissimilar targets. And Tank Dell, as we saw in that now viral video with CJ Stroud and Micah Parsons, he still solely occupies that F role in the offense, a role that when CJ Stroud had the entire league at his disposal to pick an all-star team, he picked Tank Dell to fill in that podcast clip. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's really cool to hear these two talk ball. So Tank Dell, I don't think his role is nearly in as much jeopardy as Nico Collins. And the fact that he's dropped, 12, 14 slots from where he was a few weeks ago, you got to gobble that up.
Yeah, I fucking love it, honestly. 43 overall, wide receiver 26, right behind Cooper Kupp and Zay Flowers. Like, that's a smash to me. Yeah, I'm about it. I love that value there. Who back to you, man? Who are you vibing with or not vibing with?
All right, I'll do one more I'm vibing with. I'll do another song. Shakira, like, how it opens up in Hips Don't Lie, where it's like Shakira.
And then she comes out singing like Kermit.
Yeah, when you talk like that, you make a woman go mad. You be what? All right, so back to the point. Khalil Shakir, I am very optimistic on. I've always been in, going back to the original talk about Josh Allen at QB1 and his value. I think that there's the way that they've built this offense is very, very similar. I've gone back on this. There's receipts of this, of me comparing Josh Allen and the way that the Packers kind of built things after Devontae Adams left Green Bay. Khalil Shakir could be very similar to how Allen Lazard was used in that offense, and with that chemistry pre-established that Lazard had with Rodgers, I think that you could see that with Shakir and Allen. That there's just like trusted targets. Yes, there's Dalton Kincaid there, who is a lot better of a talent than Rodgers had after Adams left Green Bay, but there's still so much value there. They're going to be growing Keon Coleman this year. Keon Coleman is still a great talent. I don't know how great he will be year one, but that doesn't mean the future isn't bright for him. So I think year one, that Khalil Shakir could have a lot of value at ADP. I don't know where he's going right now, but you got to believe that where he's being drafted, there's so much value there. So where is he going in this?
Right now, wide receiver 55, right behind Romeo Doubs and Mitchell.
I love that.
Yeah, right ahead of guys like
overall.
Yeah, right ahead of guys like Jacoby Myers, Rashid Shaheed, Josh Palmer, Gabe Davis. So like he would be the target for me in that bunch. So I'm with you there, Hoov. I love the analogies you have tonight, man. Those are good analogies.
We're breaking it down. I'm showing I'm I might be a heel to some people, but it's because I care. We scare because we care, like Monsters Inc. says. So I'll
Yes.
scare you off some players, but it's for with good intention. I want you to win because it's your boy, So Khalil Shakir.
There we go.
Shakira.
There we go. I know we have a couple more here, so I'll throw one out quickly for me. I don't think I have to get too into it. It's Jonathon Brooks, guys. I think he's a hammer right now. We put him on the thumbnail for a reason. RB27 is his price tag right now. Let's look at the running backs drafted first overall in their draft class and what they've done for fantasy. Bijan Robinson last year, RB9 overall. Breece Hall the year before, RB7 points per game. Najee 2021, RB3 overall. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This was kind of one of the fuck me's, right? But Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2020, RB23 overall. Josh Jacobs the year before, RB15 points per game. Saquon, RB1 overall. Lenny, RB9 overall. Zeke, RB2 overall. Todd Gurley, RB9 overall. You get it. The running back that's usually drafted first is predominantly a very good asset for fantasy football. And yes, he's coming off a torn ACL, but he's probably going to be ready to go by the beginning of the year. And I think, too, go ahead and get yourself some Chuba Hubbard at RB49. Lock this backfield up for a low cost. I think if you can throw out, somewhere like a late single digit pick for Jonathon Brooks, and then also coming in here and then getting a Chuba Hubbard to cap off that backfield. I like it a lot, man. They traded up to get him. I think his ceiling is very high, and we're drafting him at his floor. So Jonathon Brooks, man. And I'm going off a little play for the headline here. Thon, Penn State's big fundraiser every year that they dance for 24, 48 hours straight. Yeah, their tagline is for the kids. So Jonathon Brooks, for the kids. Let's fucking do it here. Eric, could you go 24 hours or 48 hours straight of dancing? Because that doesn't even seem necessarily healthy.
Yeah, no, that's problematic, right? Like you talk about these marathon runners that are defecating on themselves and coming out of their marathons with their nipples bleeding. That's just a couple hours of running, right? 24 hours of dancing, the chafing, the Charlie horses. I mean, God bless whoever's signing up for that, but I'm not that guy, pal.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, too, my unsolicited advice for the week to anyone is if you're going to run a marathon, fucking train right. I had my buddy call me this weekend. He's on mile 25 this marathon. He's limping. He's like, I just need someone to talk to. Jim did not train right. Second marathon he's done in a row. Udo did not train right. I get the phone call, the distress 25 mile. He showed me his splits. He was running like a 7-8 minute mile pace most of this marathon. Took him 30 minutes to get through the last mile. He had to sit down. Not a good look.
Man.
I'm straight up not having a good time, man.
I'm freaking out, man. Do you talk him off the ledge? You get him through, my guy?
I actually tried to get Christian Watson from in our dynasty draft.
Good.
Way
to kick him when he's down. That's right.
Yeah.
You got him right where you want him.
I tried to take his mind off things, and also leverage it to my advantage. So, but yeah,
boy.
Yeah, congrats to Udo on another marathon. Congrats to me on not getting Christian Watson, but I will soon. Don't worry about it. Guys, let's go ahead and round out the program though with the only way we know how to, and a little bit of good news. All right, it's the good news of the week. This is where we bring you some feel-good headlines around the fantasy football world, the sports world, the entertainment world, or just the world in general. Erica, I know you have one a little more tied into the fantasy football community, so please kick us off, my friend.
Yeah, so if you own and operate a Twitter account, you know that we are in the heart of Scott Fishbowl season, where everyone is posting their invites and showing off their new avatars and talking about the live drafts they're going to attend. And I can speak from firsthand experience. If you're not in that first wave, it feels like you are never going to get your invite and see that magical email land in your inbox. And so I wanted to shout out a new friend of mine, Jason Snyder, one of the homies over at Dynasty Nerds. He actually went and set up the SFB 14 Hopefuls chat basically a group chat for people that have signed up and are still waiting to punch their ticket. He set it up, I think, about 2 weeks ago. Now it's up over 100 members strong. It's one of my favorite places to just talk ball and to cheer people on. But also he went and put a charity spin on it, as one does this time of year. He's been advocating for donations from the members of the SFB 14 Hopefuls chat, raised over $1,500 for fantasycares.org. So if you are a hopeful yourself, you're still waiting for your golden ticket, check out Jason Snyder. It's Spides78 on Twitter. He can get you into that group chat, or you can hit me up. I'm happy to connect you too. But one of the funnest group chats, and also a real cool way to kind of bide your time while you're waiting for your ticket, and to really build the community around this awesome charity event.
Hell yeah.
Can I piggyback off that for mine?
Yeah.
So for mine, for my good news of the week, I alluded to it earlier. I actually got out of the house for once, and I went out with a few people in the community this last weekend. Jake Trowbridge, Sam Wallace, a few people from Fantasy Life, Matt Record, talented Matt Record and his fiance, and Dustin Lukey, a part of Jake Trowbridge's Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football podcast. So a few of us got together and we had some beers, had a good time, and it just being around everyone in the atmosphere. It just reminded me like how great Scott Fishbowl and live drafts and draft night out in August for us is, just being around everyone in the community and being around people that you're passionate about something with and you can just talk about it with, and then just have a good time, like just be around good people. So that's my good news of the week. Finally getting out of the house, finally getting these drafts wrapped up, finally getting things going, and it's officially the off season, baby. So I officially got my Scott Fishbowl 14 invites, so I'm locked into the Madison division. So I'm super excited now that I will be back with everyone here in Wisconsin and raising money for Fantasy Cares.
Madison getting a draft. Shout out Madison, man. Shout out Scott Fish making that happen as well, dude. That's great, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Really, really cool to see, man. Eric, you live drafting this year, man?
I am live drafting. There was one that happened to fit around my vacation schedule, and it was the Houston draft. So I get to drive a few hours east and hang out with Casey Kasem and that whole Houston crew.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
JC.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. I'm headed to DC this year. Usually go to Philly, was trying to potentially get out to see Kyle and Elliott in the Berg, but with the schedule, DC draft was a week early, so I'll be in the early flight, but I'm excited for it for sure. Good shout out there from the guys about some SFB related some stuff and some community notes. I want to round us out with something that kind of shocked the fantasy football and shocked the football world in general, I would say. This weekend was the roast of Tom Brady, man. Shout out for Tom Brady for getting up there, getting roasted in the greatest roast of all time. It's one of the ventures that Brady has been working on here. He was the first recipient of being roasted. And let's just play a couple clips. Hopefully fucking YouTube doesn't strike us down for this, but let's see what we can get. Let's see what your guys' thoughts are.
On Fox NFL Sunday, and I'm begging you, please, stop doing your job.
Obviously, Bill Belichick there referring to his classic "do your job" mantra, and then Eric just absolutely buries Gronk. And let's be honest, he ain't wrong.
Yeah, in no way is he wrong. And having gone back and watched this, I mean, it almost feels like this was the roast of Rob Gronkowski just as much as it was the roast of Tom Brady.
Yes. Yeah.
Praise left and right. Probably some of the funniest jokes of the entire night were directed Rob Gronkowski's way, and he just played right into it, right? So it was, 3 hours was probably a little bit long for a roast, but they were trying to do the whole live thing, and there were some pretty incredible sets, right? Like, of the athletes that went up there, Drew Bledsoe had a day. Like, my guy's jokes, my guy's delivery.
He's been holding on to those for fucking years, my friend.
If you're not a comedian, and he went out there, he had to open up the proceedings, and he put on a clinic. Shout out Drew. He got to shout out his vineyard too. It was a lot of fun to watch. Some of the jokes were a little ham-handed and kind of got tired, but 3 hours worth of jokes. There's going to be some overlap.
Here's another good one here from Bob Kraft.
Good luck buying the Raiders. They did your favorite thing for you already. They got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, Jimmy G catching some strays as well. Hoov, what's your thought there? Bob Kraft throwing a couple of haymakers at Tom, and his want to get Jimmy G off the Patriots.
I didn't know if Bob Kraft was going to make an appearance because earlier on he caught that stray, and Tom kind of and Tom shut it down. So I was kind of curious if he was going to make an appearance, but that's a good one. You know, like there's a few things that Tom has done that didn't actually get talked about. Like I'm glad Jimmy G got brought up. I'm surprised the Uggs didn't get brought up. That was surprising, and then. There was one more. Oh, him kissing his kids. I'm surprised that no one brought that up either.
Yeah.
So
got buried for crypto. Got buried for his divorce, and like all the fun things that you can kind of.
Nikki was hilarious, dude. I was crying, laughing.
I didn't know much about her. Before that.
She's wild.
She's great. Nikki
she had a short-lived Comedy Central series that was incredible, and then she just went out there and had a day. She was on Howard Stern today giving like some behind the scenes look of everything that went into that roast and what was off limits and stuff like that. It was a cool peek behind the curtains if you can check it out.
Very cool. Let's see what old Julian Edelman had to say.
You remember when you used to yell at us? Look, assholes, the fucking kids down at Foxborough High can make that fucking play. I've been waiting for this for so long.
Old Bill.
Look, asshole, Foxborough High is the only job offer you fucking have.
Takes it like a champ. I think Bill Belichick won the evening. Like he's just right now, Hoov, he's like on this like get well tour that he's just getting back in everyone's graces between doing the McAfee live show on draft night and then just taking zingers left and right, sitting up here like he didn't have to sit up there and take the shots, but if you were going to sit up there for a roast and stay up there after your set, you're open to shots too. And shots were fired at Bill. Even him walking out of that lady's house caught on the Ring camera got brought up. It was marvelous.
I can tell you from personal experience that Bill Belichick, he is high vibes right now because I got to walk past him at the draft. He Pat McAfee dapped up me, Paul, and Dennis and Renee. We were all just like standing there along the gate, and all of a sudden, like Pat came by and dapped up Paul, and I like didn't even realize it at the moment. But Bill Belichick, he was there, hood up and everything, walking by, but the vibes were high. And he was about to go up into the studio. That's where they were filming throughout the draft. So Bill's feeling good, man. So if he doesn't get the Falcons job, like looking back on it, do you want that job right now with how things are going with Cousins and Penix? So maybe Bill did the right thing, not taking a job this year. You can catch some strays, but he'll be back with a vengeance more than likely.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, Hoov. And I think this was so cool. Just like it almost felt like a live therapy session for the Patriots and like everything they've had to bury the last like 15 to 20 years. So, what the fuck is Brashard Perryman doing on that stage? That was the most random person for the Buccaneers that could be on there. Like that was, I don't even know, Eric. I was mind blown. I was like, who the fuck is that? And then I had to Google and I figured it out. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, look, you gotta bring the homie from at least one stop. I didn't think it would be Perriman of all people, but I mean, maybe Gronk was technically part of the Buccaneers contingent,
sure.
But either way, it was a deep cut that Perriman was out there. I mean, look, that 3 or 4 week stretch won a lot of people in fantasy leagues. So maybe there's a hidden message behind this, right? Tom Brady was riding that wave too.
Yes, he was. Guys, it was a marvelous night. If you guys haven't seen the roast of Tom Brady, make sure you go check it out on Netflix. Shout out to them.
Shot glass.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, you can't be spiking glass
shrapnel just flying everywhere.
Dude, Johnny Cash got banned from the Grand Ole Opry for kicking the lights because there's people, front row. That's glass, Gronk. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Johnny
Okay?
Cash is banned from the
is
Opry?
He was.
Oh.
Obviously,
Rest in power.
Rest in power. But yeah, he was banned there. He was a naughty boy. He got into trouble. Damaged property. He got banned from the Opry. And more you know. I wasn't banned. I got a center stage at the Opry. So things that Johnny Cash could do or things that Hoov can do that Johnny Cash couldn't, go to the Opry again.
Well, guys, I appreciate the great episode. It was a glorious evening here as well, breaking down ADP trends, talking a little about good news and some of our favorite risers and fallers. Kyle, we appreciate you in the back end and making us sound good on the audio recorded version. Too bad you can't do anything about live version. If we suck, we suck. Nothing we can do about it. But appreciate the IBT family as well riding with us tonight. Eric, tell us where we can find you and everything you got popping off here these next couple weeks, man, as we enter the summer season.
Yeah, if you just can't get enough, the second we hang up here, I'm hopping over to the Green Screens Media YouTube channel. We just cracked 1,000 subscribers ourselves, and we're talking about the college basketball transfer portal season. We've basically become a Kentucky and Arkansas basketball show as these two teams continue to trade blows. So we'll be live in like 5 minutes talking some college hoops if you want to jump in.
Oh yeah, get them hoops with Eric, man. Hoov, how can we best support you and everything you're doing here as we continue throughout the NFL offseason?
Eric saying, I just can't get enough. It just makes me want to go, boy, I think about it every night and day.
Hey.
I'm addicted and I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. A little Black Eyed Peas throwback. How you doing?
The Fergie vibes are strong tonight.
We are. We're singing. We're having a good time. We're having a grand old time. But the best way to support me is to, support everyone here at IBT and make sure you guys go ahead and buy those draft night out tickets for August because we're having a good time. We're going to be getting together at the Brew Kettle. We're going to be having a few beers, or a few tequilas, a few drinks, a few seltzers, So we're going to be drafting. We're going to be having a good old time. So make sure you guys come and join the experience because it's your boy Hoov. That's all I got.
We appreciate it, guys. Easiest way to support me, easiest way to support all of us here at IBT. Subscribe to the fucking channel if you aren't already. We have a lot of great content coming from you or coming for you across different series this season, whether that's here with the NFL, the PGA Tour, or NASCAR. Make sure you're checking in, man. We're cashing winners every single weekend. And hopefully your fantasy football teams suck a little bit fucking less by listening to us. So thank you guys so much. We will catch you next week. Until then, y'all know what to do. Keep in between. Thank you.